Welcome to another episode of the Legal Lowdown. I'm your host, Matthew R. Carpenter, an attorney, and today's topic is corruption. It's a word that just hits different, doesn't it? It's low-key unsettling. It forces you to think about trust, in your team, your workplace, even the government, right? Like you get these ashy questions popping up, but nobody wants to think their crew is dirty. That's how bias works, right? Biased people and scared ones too, no shade, but they tend to let that dark, corrupt power slide. And with the digital age and this flood of information we live in, we're always swimming with what seems like no lighthouse in sight. You really need eyes and ears inside those dark, smoke-filled rooms. That's where whistleblowers come in. They're the ones sticking their necks out trying to shine a light, y'all. But it's not all heroics like in the movies. They risk everything. They're often underprotected, maybe underpaid, way overexposed. The personal cost is high, huge. Career, peace of mind, sometimes even safety, doing God's work, but paying a heavy price. And if people don't speak up, well, we all kind of lose. Which brings us to the DOJ, the Department of Justice. They got this new whistleblower pilot program just launched on August 1st, 2024. Trying to sweeten the pot for whistleblowers, basically. That seems to be the idea anyway. Offering potential rewards, maybe clearer rules, better protection. It's a big deal. So for this episode, let's unpack that. What is this program? How is it supposed to work? And what does it mean in the real world? There's a pretty wild case connected to this too, but maybe we should quickly touch on older laws, the foundation that this new program builds on before we get there. Like the OG laws of whistleblowing, you heard? Kind of like the False Claims Act. People call it the Lincoln Law because it dates way back to the Civil War. It lets regular citizens sue the government if there's fraud. These are called qui tam actions, and if you win, the payout can be massive, sometimes up to 30% of what's recovered. Big money. Okay, so that's one. What else is in the playbook, right? Well, there's the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, the FCPA. That's all about stopping bribes paid to foreign officials, like those cases with Walmart in Mexico, Budweiser in India, and Avon in China. Those kinds often started by somebody inside saying something. And then you got the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, or SOX, that rose from Enron's mess. In theory, it's supposed to protect whistleblowers from getting fired or messed with. It's designed for retaliation protection mainly, but honestly, a lot of SOX claims kind of get tossed. They don't always stick. And why is that? If it's supposed to protect them, right? Well, it often comes down to tricky legal stuff, strict rules on how you file, what proof you need. It's just hard to win sometimes, not as strong as maybe it should be. So it's there, but maybe not the strongest shield. Which leads us to our last whistleblower law, Dodd-Frank. That one came after the 2008 financial crisis. Dodd created the Investor Protection Fund, and it offers big rewards, up to 10 to 30% if your tip leads to recovering at least $1 million. $1 million minimum. And the government can keep your identity sealed under the Dodd-Frank Act. In fact, just recently, some whistleblowers got like $6 million, and the government kept it all quiet. Okay, so those are the main tools that we have. The FCA, aka the Lincoln Law, the FCPA for foreign bribes, SOX for accounting and professional fraud, and Dodd-Frank, that $1 million minimum law we talked about. To the average person, those Johns probably sound like ancient scrolls, but they pack a punch. But even with all that firepower, it's still risky, exhausting, lonely work for a whistleblower. Which brings us back to the new DOJ pilot program. They revamped it in May 2025. The DOJ did kind of like an overhaul. It focuses on 4 specific areas now. So what are they? Well, you got foreign corruption, crimes at financial institutions, domestic corporate corruption, and healthcare fraud. So pretty targeted stuff. If you bring them good infos on those issues, could be some fat stacks in your pocket. But there's gotta be rules though, right? There's always rules. You can't just walk in. There's levels to it, fam. Your tip has to lead to recovering at least that $1 million minimum we mentioned earlier. And you have to spill all the tea. Complete truth, full cooperation, no holding back. Spill all that tea. So let's talk about who's not eligible. If you were the one running the scam, or if you profited illegally yourself, you're out. Also, elected officials, law enforcement, you're out of luck too. And the info has to be fresh, not some dusty facts the government already knows. But if you qualify, what's the potential payout look like? Man, it could be substantial. It's racks, y'all. Up to 30% on the first $100 million, and then 5% on each $100 million they recover after that. All the way up until $50 million is in your pockets. That's the cap. But get this. This is the crazy part to me. The awards are fully discretionary, man. The DOJ decides you could do everything right, risk it all, bring in the case, and yet you still get nothing. Potentially, anyway. That creates a whole lot of uncertainty, doesn't it? It's kind of like undermining the whole incentive, you could argue. And that's a huge gamble for whistleblowers. Risking your career maybe more for a potential payout? Damn. And companies, they're watching closely too. The program actually kind of gives them some outs. If they self-report wrongdoing within 120 days, they might get a non-prosecution deal. Translation, void criminal charges. They walk. But here's the chess move. Companies are also figuring out how to disqualify potential whistleblowers internally. Like if you learned about the dirt because the company's lawyers told you during an internal investigation, the company could argue you didn't bring any original info forward and you get nothing. That's nasty work. They could basically disqualify the whistleblower before they even get to the DOJ. That's a lot of layers, which kind of leads perfectly into this Bovee case. It sounds like a real-life scandal, Jerry Springer level stuff. Maybe not Springer, but definitely high drama at least. You see, M.O. Bovee, former DOJ prosecutor, just got a lifetime appointment to the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. Some even whispered Supreme Court down the way. So what's the tea then, right? Well, Senator Sheldon White basically spilled it all. He brought forward stunning allegations claiming that Bovee committed mad levels of prosecutorial misconduct. 3 incidents in just 6 months to be exact. Things like freezing funds Congress had approved, using criminal threats to push Trump-era policies, even telling prosecutors to defy court orders. So why are we talking about Bovee then? Because somebody blew the whistle on him. An ex-DOJ prosecutor named Erez Rivuni, who worked under Bovee, claims Bovee actually told prosecutors to basically say F you to the courts. And this is where that Springer part comes in. Before serving in the DOJ, Bovee was Trump's defense lawyer. Remember how I said there's levels to it, fam? We got history here. So what happened? Did these allegations stop the appointment? No. Senator Cory Booker definitely objected. He can and will bump those gums for the cause, which I appreciate. He argued the claims were fully substantiated. But Senator Grassley pushed the vote through the Senate Judiciary Committee anyway, and Bovee got appointed just this week. Even though, I can't say that Bovee is guilty of anything, because I don't know. I'm not saying that he is. I still feel for Rivuni because he risked so much. And it just shows how complicated this stuff is and how big these issues could be. But honestly, y'all, I'm a moderate. And I think these issues are on both sides of the aisle. It's not just one party. This feels like the tip of an iceberg to me. So wrapping up, it's a complex world for whistleblowers, big risks, maybe big rewards, not with this DOJ program anyway, but still uncertain. The laws are changing, but these aren't just rules for big companies. They hit close to home and affect the integrity of everything. And with the DOJ seemingly obsessed with whistleblowers, it wouldn't shock me if we see more government heads on the chopping block soon, because this increased focus is not just corporate anymore. It feels systemic. Definitely something to think about. Thank you for joining me on this episode of The Legal Lowdown.